Without further ado, it's time to meet our next guest. Like Gail, who was on earlier, he's someone who needs no introduction at all, but also like Gail, he's going to get one anyway. We know him for his work over the years with a number of artists, including Dexy's Midnight Runners, Art Garfunkel, U-Boat, and a little outfit known as the Spiders from Mars. He played on the legendary albums The Man Who Sold the World, Hunky Dory, Aladdin Sane, and the album that was 50 years ago yesterday. He is, of course, a spider from Mars. Woody Woodmansey. Woo.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Woody.
Hello.
And, warm welcome. And certainly not your first time in Liverpool either. The Spiders played here 2 or 3 times, I believe,
we did.
including
Good
almost
gig.
exactly 50 years ago, around about June 1972,
Yeah.
shortly before the album came out, I think.
Yeah, and we played a Beatles number, I remember.
And you played a Beatles number.
Yeah, That Boy. We
Yeah,
did.
this
Just
boy,
on the,
this
just
boy,
on
that
the
boy,
spot.
Yeah.
David said, we're doing That Boy.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Excellent, excellent. And you also, believe, we were talking about this last night, you played at the Cavern. We're leaping ahead to a different time now, but when it was when you and Mick Ronson were working together, but not with David at that point. You played a gig at the Cavern.
Yeah, we did. We were called Rono.
Rono, yeah.
An original name.
So this was like between Man Who Sold the World and
Yeah,
Hunky
we
Dory,
did Man Who Sold the World. Mick and I and Trevor liked touring a lot, so and we weren't going to be touring the Man Who Sold the World because of managerial things and whatever. So I think we had a gig with David in Leeds University.
Yeah.
And we set off. David was in his Rupert the Riley, and we went up in a taxi, I think, with equipment and that in the back. And we got to a crossroads, and it said Leeds, Hull. And we were chatting, and we ended up saying, driver, take us to Hull. So we went to Hull, and we left David at that point. And he never mentioned it later on. And he did the gig just with an acoustic guitar. Yeah. But then we put this band together with Trevor, another singer, and we did the Liverpool Cavern, which was really good. Yeah. I can set up where Ringo set his kit up, you know. Where did Ringo start? Yeah, put it there. It was good.
Brilliant. So let's wind the clock back to a group called The Rats, yeah? This is kind of where your journey with David began.
Yeah.
You took over as the drummer in The Rats when John Cambridge left.
Yeah.
John's going to be here tomorrow.
Is he?
I believe so. Yeah. And so John went to play with David Bowie. He played on the Space Oddity album. You took over in The Rats, whose guitarist at the time was a chap called Mick.
Yeah.
And then the point came when David was looking for another drummer, and Mick suggested the drummer from The Rats. Is that correct?
Did, yeah.
So 2 drummers from The Rats, one after another,
yeah,
replaced each other. Yeah.
I mean, John was the first, you know, in those days, I guess the consideration was you couldn't really make it from Manchester, or you had to be in London in the smoke, you know, to make it. And John was really the first one to leave Hull and go to make it. Yeah. You know, and it ended up with David. And then after Mick's conversation with David, Bowie phoned me up and said, Mick says you're really good, you'll fit in with us. We're going to be doing an album. I've got this place called Haddon Hall in Kent. You don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about food. And we're just going to rehearse and do this album. Yeah. You know?
And this, of course, is the album that became The Man Who Sold the World.
Yeah.
And you were rehearsing in the basement at Haddon Hall, is that right? There was a little kind of makeshift...
Yeah, there was what must have been a wine cellar. And we took everything out of it, and we got all our power tools out and soundproofed it, because there were other flats around the flat that we had. And it was so fucking loud in there.
Quite a small space.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was really loud, but it was good. You know, you could just like try things out for the songs and that, you know. It was good.
So The Man Who Sold the World was an album that came together kind of quite quickly, and some of it David was writing on the hoof and even in the studio, I think. Some of it was demoed and some of it was quite quick, is that right?
Yeah, it was probably the most unique album as far as how it was put together, because he would come with, I've got these chords and I've got this bit and I've got this section here, I don't know where that goes, and I think this is the end bit. That's what, so then we would get that and go, oh, okay, turn that into a song. So we set up in Advision Studios in London. And we set up like it was a gig. We just, bass, guitar, drums in the middle, microphone out front. And we just basically jammed and cut and paste, really. Just, let's try that bit, let's try, oh, that works, let's repeat that, let's do that. And there was I think there was only one title that we had as a song that David gave us. He said, this is called The Cyclops.
Right.
I was like, whoa, okay. And then that then became the Superman. But it was the Cyclops to us.
Cyclops, wow, yeah. That particular track is a bit of a showcase for your own department, isn't it? I mean, you've got those wonderful kind of barreling drums on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So David kind of gave you quite a lot of free rein, right? To work out a part and present him with something, and then he would say, yes, I like that, rather than him telling you exactly what he wanted from the get-go. Was it a bit of both?
Yeah, you always had your own part to work out.
Yeah.
I think luckily Trevor and Mick and myself had worked together for a couple of years, and we kind of got to know each other's playing and more or less what he would do in that situation. And sometimes you get like an ESP type thing going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You go, oh, I was going to do that, and you do it together, and then like, okay, that's happening. That's good. The only track he ever told me what to play on was on Aladdin Sane, and I think we were in America at the time touring, and I was a big John Bonham from Zeppelin fan, and so I heard he'd played me Panic in Detroit.
Yeah.
Probably after playing in Detroit, and I thought, oh, this is great for a John Bonham type beat, So I'd been working that out on the road. We got into a studio in America, and it started down, 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 down. I did a Bonham thing, and he went, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I went, "It's a beat I've worked out. I think it'd be really cool." He went, "No, I just want a Bo Diddley beat." I was like, inside going. And I said, no, I've worked out some really good fills to do. When you do that, I can do that. No, do a Bo Diddley. I was like, fucking hell. All right, so we started it again, and I was boom, 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 boom. I was like, fucking hell, this is really good. Yeah. So he had that intuition. Yeah. So that's the only time he ever told me what to play.
Right, it's interesting.
Luckily.
Well, I guess that means that every other time you got it exactly right, because he did always have an absolute instinct, as you say, for kind of exactly what any particular song required. Yeah. And if it was time for him to dig his heels in and say, no, this is what I want, then that's what he'd do. But otherwise, he would let his collaborators do their thing. He
expected you to get it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you'd be... Mick and I would be making tea and toast in the kitchen at Haddon Hall, and you'd heard him do Life on Mars on a pier, plonky plonky, because he wasn't like Rick Wakeman, not flourishes. It was, but the chords were like amazing. You're like, whoa, and you'd hear Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow coming through the serving hatch. You went, okay, that's weird, And then, what was I going to say? I forgot where I was going.
We were on Panic in Detroit before?
We finished that one.
Yeah, we finished that one. Oh, yeah. So The Man Who Sold the World was recorded, so we're talking like spring of 1970, aren't we there?
Yeah.
And you played a few gigs around about the same time, because you were for a brief time at the tail end of the band Hype, which David had formed, because John Cambridge had played in that, but you did a few gigs with them, but then things did go kind of a bit quiet on the Bowie front for a few months or almost a year, and then things kind of reactivated again in the spring, early summer of '71, and Bowie kind of invited you all back to Haddon Hall.
He said you're the only outfit that I've been able to do what I like doing with.
Yeah.
You know where I'm at. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm doing, and you seem to grasp it quick.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. You know, he would on a Friday he would say, "Oh, I've just finished one, Woody. Do you want to hear it?" "Yeah, go on." So I go in the lounge, you play it, and I go, "Are we going to do that one on Monday?" And he would go, "Yeah, probably." So you've heard it once, and then you think, well, "I'll probably get to hear it again before we start recording, you know, in the studio." So I say, "Are we doing that one that you played me on?" "No, we're doing this one. I've just finished this one." "Shit, okay." And he'd play it maybe twice.
Yeah.
And then the band, you know, Trevor and Mick, we had to figure out, hell, what is it we're going? Is there a middle eight bit? What does it do at the end? Where's the chorus? How many choruses are there? What's the intro? And then David would just go to Ken Scott, "Is it rolling?" Which meant the red light's on, you're recording, oh shit. I have a brief idea of where the song's going, you know.
Yeah.
And then we were still in the mode of a little bit how we'd done The Man Who Sold the World, was a lot of takes of a song to get it right and get it feeling right. So you might do two versions of the song, and you think, okay, I think I got it. Let's go and have a listen. So at Trident Studios, you had the studio itself was on a bottom basement. The control room was up 2 flights of stairs. So you're like, you have to do 2 flights of stairs into the control room, listen. And he'd go, "Okay, yeah, I know how it goes now. Shall we go do another one?" And he'd go, "No, that's it." And you go, "What?" "That's the second one. That's it. That's what I want." You go, "Oh, that's the first time we got it right, you know." And he'd go, "Yeah, that's what I want." And I go, "Are you sure?" And I thought he'd lost the plot. Do you know what I mean? I thought, oh, he's going to mess. Really great songs, he's going to mess up, right? But then he'd say, "No, let me put my 12 string on." He'd put that on, and he went, "Oh, it opened up a bit." And then he'd go, "I'll go and do a guide vocal." And he went, "Fucking hell." And then everything you'd played made sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'd go, "Shit." And then we got to realize that he wanted you kind of go into a creative place, if you like. If you're a computer, you're in create mode. Yeah. So you go into that to figure out what to play. If you're going to do 5 versions of it, you're sitting on a drum stool or a guitar going, "What did I play on the second one? Because that was really nice in that bit." Yeah. So you're no longer creating, you're doing a tribute to yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely,
which, believe it or not, loses something. It just loses that freshness. Yeah. And he wanted that. What do you feel like playing and what are you passionate about? I want that. So we never went to like 3 takes. Yeah. You know?
It's kind of amazing. It's
and he was right.
Brave, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of it's like tightrope walking. It's really, but this is a constant that we hear from. We were talking to Gail just earlier this morning. You know, from many years later in David's career, she was saying exactly the same thing, that spontaneity was something that he really valued as part of the. You know, there's an energy there which you won't get on take 7. Yeah. Amazing stuff. So Hunky Dory was kind of, by comparison with The Man Who Sold the World, this was like the first time that you'd experienced that kind of thing.
That kind of operating, yeah. And then it was more than that on Ziggy even.
Yes.
You know, less takes. Yeah. And then Aladdin Sane, a little bit of that. Like Genie was the first time we'd ever played it. Yeah. And that's the single. Yeah. Starman was the second time we'd ever played it. Things like that. And you go, when you look, at the time you get used to that, but now you look back and go, holy shit. I only played it twice. You know?
Amazing, absolutely. I mean, the Genie was recorded, I believe, in a very quick session in one day in New York, on a day off during the tour. Was it even a day off? I think you might have had a gig that night. I can't remember. But it was then introduced into the live set straight away, around about the same time. Yeah, and was an instant classic. But so it was like literally sort of one take. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. And I mean, you must have gone back and done a few dubs and things, did you? Or I mean, there's those kind of rattling. Are they maracas that you're playing on the Genie as well? That kind of.
That's David.
Oh, that's David. Is it?
That's him doing that.
Wow. Okay.
While he did the vocal track.
Right. Fantastic.
I'll take the credit.
I'm on it. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But it wasn't me.
Right.
It wasn't me.
I know an instrument I wanted to ask you about, actually, going back to The Man Who Sold the World. On the title track of that, Tony was telling me that this was the first time you'd ever picked one of those up. Is that
I
right?
didn't know what the fuck it was.
What's it called? A
I was like
gyro,
a
is that what it's called?
rock and roll drummer. Percussion, what the fuck is that? You know?
Yeah.
And he brought this, it's like a torpedo thing with ridges around it, and there's a hole, and it's red at one end and green at the other. And he said, we're going to put this on this track. And I went, and he handed me it. Yeah. Him thinking, I know all about percussion, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I put my thumb in the hole. I'm thinking, do you blow? Do you blow across the hole? Do you shit? There's no beads in it. And then he just went, you twat. He took it off me, took a little stick out that was a bendy stick. Yeah. He said, brr, brr. That's what we're doing. I went, oh, fucking hell. I can do that. It might have been good, though, blowing on it. We passed a lot among the stairs. We spoke of wars and went.
Oh, it works. Amazing, amazing. So going back to the Hunky Dory sessions, more so than I think on The Man Who Sold the World, David had been prepping these songs and demoing them. And as you mentioned, he'd been playing the piano. He would be the first to say he wasn't a virtuoso pianist, but he'd been writing songs like Oh You Pretty Things and Life on Mars. He composed on the piano, which is I think quite a new thing for him at the time. And then, of course, Rick Wakeman came in, and it almost became this great piano-led album, by comparison with Ziggy coming next, which is a very different sound.
Yeah.
So how
I mean, he'd been in America promoting The Man Who Sold the World, which got a lot of coverage, but it didn't sell. Didn't sell a lot. And but he'd met Iggy, he'd met Lou Reed, he'd met Warhol, and he'd soaked up a bit of, I guess, Velvet Underground, and we were listening to Neil Young and John Lennon's solo album, stuff like that. Yeah. Because, you know, you're still developing as a musician. Yeah. You're still finding your feet to some degree.
Got a Neil Young feeling in Kooks, isn't there? That's
it. Yeah. And when he came back, he had this. I mean, when I look back now, I always think, why did he have such a problem in the early days having success quickly? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think you know, he was a great actor. We watched a mime film of him doing mime in the first week, which I'm sat there thinking, what has this got to do with rock and roll? Do you know? He wrote songs. He'd written songs for other people. He was into fashion. He could draw and all that. So he had a lot of talents, you know, and but it was a bundle of talent when I first chatted with him. And he went, oh, I can see the potential sticking out here, and it's all different things, but there was no direction, apart from we're going to do an album. But it wasn't because I want to do this. And I think when he came back from America, the one thing he seemed to learn was, what do I need to do? I need to do more Bowie. And when I look back, I think all the stuff he did before, there was always a little bit of somebody else mixed in with Bowie. You know, a bit of Anthony Newley, a little bit of Mark Bolan, a little bit of
Dylan.
And it was like, no, it needs more Bowie. What does Bowie want to look like? What does Bowie sound like? What does he want to say? All that. And I think listening to people like Iggy and Lou Reed, they didn't compromise really on what they sang about. It was like, I'm shooting up heroin. That's what I'm singing about. I'm cutting my throat while I'm singing. That's what I'm singing. She's got a whip. Whatever. It was just no compromise. And I think he took those elements and was then able to go, I can use everything I'm good at in the right places. And that gave him the freedom then to go, right, I'll create. I'll create using everything I can do. Yeah. That was just my summing up of it.
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me, listening to those albums, as you know, we're all so familiar with them, aren't we? But it's always felt to me as though Hunky Dory, which is a magnificent album, in its own right, is also a kind of almost like a sort of laboratory where he's experimenting with things. And then Ziggy Stardust is like the project. So it's like this is where it's come together. I mean, that doesn't make Hunky Dory a bad album. It's a brilliant album. But Ziggy Stardust is where suddenly everything comes into focus in a way.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Hunky Dory was, I'll show you I can write. I can write on a piano. I can write on a 12-string. Give me an elastic band and I'll hold it between my teeth and go, and I'll sing you a hit song. I'll show you I can write.
Yeah.
And it did that. And I can do it in different styles and whatever. And that stamped him there as a songwriter.
Yeah.
You know, there was still a little bit of him thinking, should I just write for other artists? Now I've kind of proved I can write.
Yeah.
And then he kind of looked at, no, I like performing. Do you know what I mean? And I want to be in rock and roll. And he hadn't really been in rock and roll.
No.
You know?
Or it's been kind of folky and a bit of mod in the 60s.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. This was a kind of a new...
So Ziggy was... I mean, I remember when he said to me, I've got a title for the album. It's called The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And I went, fuck, that's a mouthful. Do you know what I mean? I only just understood what he said. It was that long.
Yeah.
But, you know, and believe it or not, we never talked about it being a concept album. It was just all the bits around it and the image and the hair and the makeup and the clothes. It all just kind of fell into place naturally.
Yeah.
You know,
and there was
sometimes with a lot of screaming and shouting from us. Do you know what I mean?
There was a certain amount of reluctance or confusion to start with about this whole costumes and makeup thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you know, we'd got through the costume thing. I think I've told the story many times where we were watching, and it might even been Space Odyssey in his lounge. We were all watching it. We watched that quite a few times. That and Clockwork Orange were films we watched a lot.
Yeah.
And he handed me he'd been scribbling on a bit of paper and he handed it across and I kind of looked and it was cartoon characters that looked like off Star Trek with wrestling boots on and spiky hair, and I just thought, yeah, it's cool. and I didn't really join any dots up. And then about 3 days later, Mick Ronson, myself, Angie and him were in Liberty's material department in London. And we were like, me and Mick are going like, rock and roll, yeah. What the hell are we doing in there with all this velvet and stuff? And I honestly thought we're having curtains made for Haddon Hall. Because there was not a lot of money, so it wasn't like flashy until later on, you know. So he's handing rolls down. Woody grabbed this and going, what? Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking curtains, because it's curtain material. And I go, this is a bit fucking bright. We won't need to put the lights on, you know, shit like that. Then the next day, he had Freddie Beretti, the designer, came in and measured us up. Like, what the fuck, you know? There was, I think the first outfits, there was 3 colours. There was blue, gold, and pink, you know. So we were all in there, and Angie was in there. They said, well, Mick's got blonde hair and gold, this gold lame velvet, whatever, crushed velvet. Looks good on him, and green boots, that really integrates. And being an artist, I knew that was right. You know what I mean? Yeah, it looks cool. And then I looked down, and there's blue and pink. And they went, Trevor's got like really dark hair, so blue, like really good. And I'm looking and I'm going, I just went, pink. And Angie went, but it takes a real man to wear pink. And I was fucking 19 and naive, and I just went, okay then. The makeup thing.
And then the makeup came on, yeah.
That was Starman came out. You got Top of the Pops to do. Top of the Pops was the thing you headed for when you first started playing music. You know, there could be World War IV going on and everything, but it's Top of the Pops still on. you had to watch it, you know. Yeah. So being able to do that, asked to do that, was like, whoa, you know. We'd had haircuts. we'd bought clothes for streetwear that were kind of rock and roll, so we felt pretty good as a band, you know. And then we're in the green room, we're kind of combing our hair before going on for Top of the Pops. We wanted to look cool, you know. And he opened this box and dragged a bag out, and there was brushes and pink fluffy things and powder puffs and foundation, and it just landed. And I think we all stopped mid-air like that. And he started putting foundation on like that. And he just went, "You boys not wearing makeup then?" And he got 3 answers immediately that I'm not going to go into what they were, but they were pretty explicit. And he just kept doing it. He just kept going, "That's a shame." And I went, "What do you mean, a shame?" And he went, "Well, you've not played under these strong studio lights, and it does have a tendency to take the features out of your face. You'd be a little greenish colour, and you won't be able to tell it's you. And you've probably got friends and family, and there's about 1 million people watching." It just went quiet, and the next thing was, "So what do you do with this?" And he went, "Come here." And he just... He just showed us, you put this on first and then you do that, and you need, "What colour do you like?" "Well, I don't know." It's like my first time. And we look like hookers. If you went in really close, it wasn't pretty. We did learn to do it really good. And then on tour, you would hear in the dressing room, "Who's nicked my effing mascara?" "Trev had it last." "I haven't had it, I've got my own."
So you all took to it like a duck to water at the end. Yeah.
As David said later on, when we found out the girls really liked it.
Yeah.
It
worked.
Somehow it just worked.
Yeah.
We actually then ended up, we would go shopping in Beckenham for food. And you would hear, "We're going shopping. You're going to put makeup on?" I'm not even going to answer whether we did or not. Go on.
I love in the course of 1972, there are 3 appearances you did on the BBC, like almost exactly beginning, middle, and end of the year. There's the Gristle Test right at the beginning of the year, where you did 5 years, first time anyone had really heard that, because it's before the album came out, and a couple of songs from Hunky Dory. And then, of course, the famous Starman, which was beginning of July. And then the Genie, which was lost for so many years, but was found again on Top of the Pops at the end of the year. And you can see the journey you were all going on, you know. They're all magical clips, but, you know, Starman feels like the very moment that a star is born, and there's a kind of fragility to it. And then by the time you get to that amazing Genie, Top of the Pops, you're all just, you've been to America, you've partied with the New York Dolls, you've made it home alive, and you're kind of on fire.
I mean, that's why we did it live. Yeah. Because playing live, we'd done one take of it. Do you know what I mean, in the studio? But playing it on tour, it just took on different things about it. Yeah. And it felt better. So when they said, "You want to do Genie?" we went, "Yeah, if we can do it live." Yeah. And they went, "No, you can't." So we went, "We're not doing it." And then they went, "Okay, you can do it live." You know. Brilliant. And that was very cool. Yeah, that's amazing, because it was really unusual at the time to do a live one on Top of the Pops, wasn't it? It was all pre-record a new backing track and go in and mime it. Rubber cymbals. Yeah. And it just went like that. So you had to pretend it was a cymbal, you know. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, no, it was thrilling, wasn't it, when that clip came back? I mean, just amazing to see that performance again after all these years. So, yeah, so going on tour in this country, and the kind of gradual build-up of it was a kind of a slow snowball to start with, wasn't it? I mean, I suppose it was the Starman on Top of the Pops that really pushed the button. Off, yeah. I mean, when we first started doing the Ziggy show, it wasn't a completely together thing, because that evolved over the tours. Yeah. But it was pretty much the bare bones of the Ziggy show. But we did pubs and little club places. Yeah. And it must have looked fucking bizarre in a pub. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then we got so that the girls were the first ones that liked it. The guys, the boyfriends, wanted to beat the shit out of us. And it got fucking dangerous, you know? So Bowie said, do you know any good, strong blokes, you know, that can hang out with us and that? And we had a roadie in Hull called Stewie, who was a black guy who had been a boxer. So we got Stewie down, and then David got a guy who used to wear a judo outfit. And it wasn't, it looked pretty cool to have these minders, but it was really for safety. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause they would have kicked the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You know? So it was, it was definitely rock and roll on the edge, you know?
Yeah. I get the amount of belief that David must have had in it, because it was, I mean, looking back at it now, looking back at the dates, it was a few months of this before it really happened for Ziggy.
I mean, for us, you know, we'd gone through this, not just musicians playing good music, but wearing these outfits and having your hair done, special boots made, and makeup, and the whole thing. It could have failed miserably. Do you know what I mean? You could have been a laughing stock. Who the do you think you are, you guys?
Yeah.
You know? So that was always running along. The only thing that kept us going was the faith and the belief in the songs.
Yeah.
That they should be out there, and that it was good stuff. And that he'd been on this writing role of everything he wrote and brought to you was like, holy shit, that's different from the last one, but that's got it.
Yeah.
That Bowie thing was like stamped on everything he did, and you know.
Absolutely, it's an amazing.
But
we
could have been end of careers.
Yeah.
You know.
But it thankfully wasn't. It was the beginning of a huge thing. Going back, you're looking at the songs on Ziggy Stardust. I mean, again, your input is there's so much amazing work that you got to do on there. And right at the top of the album, the beginning of 5 Years, that's a very distinctive drum beat. Now, was that something that you kind of presented to David and said, "How about this then?" Or was that?
No, it was. He'd played the song, I think, at Haddon Hall.
Yeah.
We went, oh, that's a good track. And we got in the studio, and he went, "Drums, start this one." And I didn't even figure a beat out or anything for it, right? And through my head was, oh, good, time to get flashy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A few cymbal splashes. just show off a bit and then bring it in, you know. And as when the recording thing went in, and no, actually before that, I just thought, it's the end of the world. The song's about the end of the world, you know. You're not going to feel like that. You're not going to be excited about it. And I've got to play in the mode for the song, you know.
Yeah.
And it just, okay, you kind of acted and got into it, and it just came out. It just felt right, you know. And he went, do that. He just went, do that. That's exactly what it needs. I was like,
Brilliant. Fantastic. And
I thought, I'll hit a cymbal, and I went, I can't fucking be bothered. What's the point? The world's ended.
There's a really kind of a minimal thing on the last track as well, isn't there? Rock and Roll Suicide. That's a very kind of controlled. Again, I don't know if there was a temptation to kind of go a bit crazy on it because it's so kind of screwed down, isn't it? That one. It's very.
I think we'd all evolved and we'd all learned that the senior thing was the song.
Yeah.
And David's voice, you know. Whereas, like on Man Who Sold the World, I didn't mind doing a fantastic drum fill right through his vocal. It didn't occur to me. I wanted to play that. It seemed to fit. If it crosses that, tough shit, you know. But we'd kind of got to this place of like, you play for the song, and you have to, also you have to understand, at least in your head, what the song's about, you know. And we used to go about asking fans, what's your favorite? Oh, Life on Mars. What's it about? And they would go, and you've got some stories that were like, whoa, okay, you know, never thought of that. But that's cool. And then you realize that, and for me, he was one of the geniuses at pointing you in a direction with a song. He never gives you, you know, she worked at Marks and Spencer's. She had, well, actually, he did, didn't he? No.
Oh, yes, in Marks and Sparks.
Marks and Sparks.
Yeah.
But he never gave you the complete story of this is what you're supposed to think, and this is what you're supposed to feel, and this is who it is, and this is the ending of it. He never did that. It was always ambiguous. It was, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, totally
and
agree.
You had then, he put you as an individual into your own personal create. You went into create the same as he was.
Yeah.
So you're creating what the story is. He's given you enough aesthetically, lyrically, vocally to then put your picture, your story on that song. And that's why it was so fucking good.
Yeah.
He had that ability.
The song can mean...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, totally right. There's one of the many things about his genius is exactly that his songs mean exactly what they mean to you or to me or to you or to you. It's great that it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And the idea that there's some kind of cryptic crossword puzzle with a solution that you can crack that's not how it works at all, is it?
No, I mean, because the lyrics often were very strange.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, "What's this about, David?" And you'd go, "I don't fucking know."
Yeah.
It's like, make your own mind up what it's about.
Yeah.
He was doing what he felt was right, what appealed to him, what he wanted to say. Whether I got the same thing, who knows?
Yeah.
But I was able to make my story up for each song of what it was about and the pictures, whether it's Driving Saturday and what I saw when I was playing. And Mick maybe did a different thing, you know. Which is why it was great. It's great art. That's what art's supposed to do. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, having cracked the UK, Starman's a big hit. John, I'm Only Dancing comes out later in the summer, another big hit. Mm-hmm. Off you all went to America, which was kind of almost a start again, because at this point, America didn't quite know what was about to hit it. But I think the main man, the management team had been ahead and done lots of hyping and publicity and stuff. Yeah. So they kind of knew that the new guy in town was about to touch down. But that first American tour was a bit of an extraordinary experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You know, I mean, we had one gig. It must have been a 15,000 seater, and there was 300 people.
Wow.
At the gig.
Yeah.
And they didn't all sit in the same place. So it looked empty. There's nobody in, you know. So David got them all down the front rows, the 300 people. We chopped the lights down so it was dark behind, and we did the complete show full on, as though it was a filled stadium.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It was amazing. And then they said, next door to it, joined onto it, was a 20,000 thing. And they said, you'll be in that one next time we tour. And we were like, 300. Are you sure? You know, but we were.
But you were. Yeah. It's amazing. And you played some incredible venues that first time. Carnegie Hall, and Santa Monica.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you've talked very entertainingly in the past, I know, about some of the kind of culture clashes that you experienced over there. There's an anecdote I love, so I'm going to shamelessly ask you to repeat it, about an accidental question you asked about when someone said, I'm going out shopping, does anyone want anything, in America? Was that?
That was in the Plaza Hotel in New York, which was our first hotel when we arrived in New York. So you'd just gone through Canelo wants to live up there, as you're in the taxi, the skyscrapers. Who the hell would want to live up there, you know? Because we'd not really seen that.
Yeah.
We'd seen a bit in London, but these were like, whoa. And every car was yellow. You look down the street, it was all taxis, all yellow. Like, fuck, it's like you're on another planet. So we'd not been able to eat the food on the plane because it was gross. And we were starving, so we went in the restaurant. And what was your question? Sorry, I was in the plaza.
Yeah.
I was sat in the... Go on. What was the question?
And someone was going out shopping to get... and said, does anyone want
so we're sitting in the foyer in the plaza, and we had a lot of Andy Warhol's crew from the factory became our tour personnel. And most of them were very, what I, at the time, called dramatizing queens. You know what I mean?
Theatrical.
Theatrical.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
And they would go, we're going shopping. Do you want anything? Like, and it was quite a I did that quite well, didn't I? It was quite a conservative foyer. You know, there was people having tea and whatever. Yeah. And I just went, yeah, can you get me some fags? And the whole fucking place went, they were like, we'd love to, you know. See you later. So in that restaurant, we went in to eat, and I think it was breakfast, and I wanted a fry up, and I thought they're going to do a good fry up, so we all got a fry up, and I was raised on fry ups, you know, sausage, tomato, bacon, toast, blah, 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 the whole thing, and there was a skewer with like melon and strawberries and raspberries and grapes and shit like that on my plate, and I'm thinking, what the is this? You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, sorry, can't handle that. I'm not that cultured, you know. So then I wanted some vanilla ice cream. And I said to the guy, could I just have a vanilla ice cream? It's not on the menu, sir, sorry. I went, just a vanilla ice cream, that's all. We've got this with vanilla, you can have that with it, and the syrup on it, and this on it, and wafers. No, I just want vanilla ice cream. Sorry, can't do that. You got to have something on it, sir, you know. And I went, oh, stick 2 fucking sausages in it. You might as well. You put fruit on my eggs and bacon. And I got my ice cream.
Excellent.
Without the sausages.
Without the sausages, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. And it was an incredibly busy time, wasn't it? So the American tour swiftly followed by returning home, recording the rest of Aladdin Sane, which was an album kind of made on tour, effectively, here and there, bits in America.
Different studios.
Yeah. Quick spot on the Russell Harty show, and then you were off back to America, and then you went to Japan, and then you came back to the UK, and it was just non-stop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Japan, let's talk about that. That must have been amazing too.
That was weird. I mean, that was, I think it was in Tokyo, they stomped so much. We used to do like 5 encores.
Yeah.
They just did not shut up the audience.
Yeah.
That was not just in Japan.
Yeah.
And you'd go, holy shit, I've heard people do encores, but this would go on. We had time to make coffee, have a coffee. Yeah. So we do another one? Yeah, all right then. And it was still...
And they were still up for it. Yeah.
You know, and you go back on like 5 encores, you know.
It's interesting,
Japan,
isn't it?
They destroyed the seats and the whole floor collapsed and there was a whole fucking... Wow. The audience disappeared.
Yeah. It is quite interesting, isn't it, that David...
It's got blood on it.
David kind of caught on in Japan quicker than in many other countries. There was some connection there. I mean, I guess his Japanese interest in kabuki.
Like some cat in Japan, I suppose.
Yeah,
helped.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would have helped. Yeah, absolutely. And during that stage in the touring, as it went on, David was getting more and more theatrical with his. Well, there were more and more costumes coming, weren't there?
Yeah.
And of course, he was doing the mime routine in Width of a Circle and all that sort of stuff. It was becoming.
I mean, that was new to us when he first started doing that. It was like, whoa, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it was trying things out, and the audience response is what kept them in. So the show kept changing slightly, and the costume changes changed it. We changed the set list a bit. Just keeping it fresh.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
him being able to throw out do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah,
you know? We had the guy that made the original costumes was in England making costumes for us while we were on tour. Uh-huh. So you'd get to a hotel like Boston or wherever, and a package for Woody, whatever. You open it up, and there's an outfit there. Oh, great, you know. And I remember once, don't know where we were, but I got one, and it was really bright coloured, and it was a jacket, and the shoulders were like out there somewhere, and these Oxford red bags that must have been like that wide. And I put it on, and I looked like fucking Lurch out there. Adam's Family. You know what I mean? And I just went, I cannot wear this. Do you know what I mean? So, and we'd got to this theatre we were going to play a day early. We went to the theatre just to check the theatre out, and there was a production on. And in the play that was on, one of the actors came down in a big, like, steel cage with bars from the top. It just appeared with lights on it. And that's how we got onto stage. And Bowie saw that and went, that's how I'm coming onto stage tomorrow night. It was like, whoa, that'll be different, you know. So that was all set up. We got there doing sound check, and I noticed 4 trapdoors at the front of the stage. And I went to the studio manager, do these work? And he went, yeah, we do full productions here. So they operate every week, we're using them. So I said to David, it would be really cool if we blacked everything out and we just came up with the Clockwork Orange music, just put 4 different colored lights, and we just come up, and he went, we're doing it. It's a great idea. And then he went, oh, fuck, I'm coming down in the cage. You know what I mean? And he just went, no, we'll do both. Well, I'll come down in the cage, then we'll have an interval. So he decided where to have an interval, and then we'll come back on that way. And he said to us, what you do is you just look, eyes open, not flinching, just stare at the audience and just don't move a muscle. And I'll count to 4 under my breath without moving my lips. Like 3, 4, and then bang, just go for the instruments, kick it off, it'll be amazing. Good. But then we're down in under the pits waiting to come up. And he said, hey, why haven't you got that outfit on that Freddie sent? And I went, because I look like a twat. He went, you are wearing it. You know, you are. I went, I'm not wearing it. And he said, I said, you wear it. He went, I'll wear it. I said, good, sorted, you wear it. So and then the show's starting, so we're on the trapdoor things like that, and he's going, you're really ungrateful. He said, Freddie's fingers were bleeding back in London. I said, I don't care if he lost his fucking fingers. So this is going on where heads are coming above the stage. He's going, and then swear words that I'm not going to repeat here. And I'm going, yeah, you are as well, you know. You were it. I look like, it was, and then he came, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we went. And then during the first song, he came up to the drum kit and he went, I won't repeat what he said, and we just both cracked out laughing. And I never saw that outfit again. It was good.
Amazing. By the time we get to the famous film of the final Ziggy Stardust concert, there's a sequence in which David goes off stage for a big costume change and leaves you guys on stage, and I think it's in the middle of Width of a Circle, isn't it?
Yeah,
and you do this massive kind of, it's like almost a kind of shamanic thing where of drums and bass and Mick on guitar, and it goes on, and it's fantastic. Was that something? I mean, obviously it was there in some respects just for the costume change, but in other respects it was a kind of a workout for you, a showpiece for you guys.
Yeah, it was something that again happened one night on one of the tours where they were playing close to each other. Mick was doing solos, Trevor was keeping the groove going, you know, and I think Mick caught Trevor with the guitar strings sticking out, and he came off with a cut there. And to me, when I was watching it, it looked like they were having a fight. I thought they'd had an actual fight on stage, an upset or something. Because sometimes Mick would come over and he would tune Trevor's bass. Like as though Trevor was never out of tune, you know. So that used to, and he would pull it away. Right. And it looked like a fight. So I said, it would look fantastic if you actually have a fight. Yeah. We'll put the strobes on and just fight. And so you work this routine out, and because it's strobe lighting, you can't really see how close they are to you. So they would be going like that, and they'd crack each other. So they would come off with cuts and all sorts. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it was a good. Yeah. It was exciting. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. Amazing. And another thing that happened that famous last night, which sadly isn't in the film, but is in the forthcoming amazing film Moon Age Daydream, which you guys are going to love, is the encore of, again, the Genie, where Jeff Beck came on and joined the band,
Yeah,
which
that was
is
cool.
a blistering thing. That must have been exciting.
It was.
In a way, Jeff Beck was he a bit of an idol for Mick? He was certainly, they were a similar kind of player, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we before we joined David, we probably did at least 6 Jeff Beck numbers in the set.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And Mick, he was a perfectionist. We'd do Hendrix, we'd do Cream, we'd do Beck, and he nailed every sound.
Yeah.
You closed your eyes and you thought Jimi Hendrix was in the room. He had it so down.
Yeah.
Becky then obviously heard him and appreciated his sound and his playing,
Yeah.
So he came along to a gig once, to see him.
Yeah.
Which was a big honor for Mick, And then it was like asking him to play with us was like, oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a really terrific experience. I don't know whether you've had a chance to see this film yet.
I got an invite yesterday actually to go
did you
see it.
in Sheffield?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I might see you there. Yeah. It's a terrific film, and among the footage that's not been out before is the Jeff Beck Genie encore, and you're there.
Yeah.
Plenty of you. It's great. It's great stuff. So, and of course, the other thing that rather famously happened that same night was that David decided unexpectedly to pull down the curtain for the last time on the Spiders, which I know at the time it was a great big shock, not just to the audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know about it, but to be fair, there was quite a few things happening that kind of led to that point.
Yeah.
There were financial things that wasn't particularly with David, was with management. That didn't sit right, and we thought we resolved it, but we didn't, obviously. And we'd already started playing some stuff for pin-ups. We'd already started doing versions of Diamond Dogs, some of the Diamond Dogs tracks, which probably nobody knows about, and they were good. They were sounding really good.
Yeah.
And then we were already going to be touring somewhere else. There was a tour being set up. And we got used to David. He was kind of a 24/7 artist.
Yeah.
He was always looking for effects to create, whether it was a big situation or a teeny with a few people. It was that artistic thing was always rolling. Soaking up things. Oh, I'll use that, I'll have that, pinch that, do that.
Yep.
And he'd said many things over the years that were a bit like, whoa, that's a bit near the mark, or whatever. And then it didn't happen what he said, or something like that. So when he said it, yes, we didn't know that was going to be said, but we also didn't really know what he meant.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'd observed him really not eating well on the tours. And because of that, he would catch kind of flu quite easily. And you'd have to go through, shit, do we do the gig tonight?
Yeah.
And you think, he can hardly talk, how can he sing? And he'd go, the show goes on, whatever. And you go, all right then. And he'd go on, and for an hour and a half, you didn't know he had flu. And then he'd walk off, collapse, and they'd have to get a doctor to inject him whatever vitamins, blah, 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 and get him back on his feet.
Yeah.
So he wasn't healthy, and I was thinking, can he handle it? Can he handle the continual touring and whatever?
It was a punishing schedule, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, you were often doing 2 shows a day.
Yeah,
and it
for
was
like a
day
week in Philly and a week somewhere in England. We did matinee show, and then an evening show.
Yeah.
We never stopped. I think we had maybe 3 weeks off a year.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it's that. Maybe he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't really find out probably until I was getting married just after that. So 3 days later, I was getting married, and I got a phone call from the management, basically from the manager, who said, you won't be going to France to record. I went, oh, why not? Because you said you didn't want to. I was like, yeah, I did, but I thought we sorted all that out. Yeah, but you won't be going. So I went, yeah, okay. You know. So that was, and it was the end of the Ziggy thing that came across, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, we'd already talked about on tour. He said, I'm looking at doing a soul thing. Not much more explicit than that. And to us, it was like, soul? Do you know what I mean? I guess we hadn't really clicked with the changes that he was going to be going through, or how he was viewing his career.
Sure.
Had not been, we hadn't joined the dots again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we didn't really fancy doing soul. Diamond Dogs, yeah, that was a different thing. And I think Pin-Ups came about because he had a commitment to do an album and he hadn't had time because of the schedule to write. So he said the Spiders always wanted to do a cover album. And it was like, fucking news to me. But so it really came about like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it must have been, you know.
I mean, in a way it was good because it was, excuse the pun, it was wham bam, thank you, man.
Yeah.
It was a rocket ride with Starman.
Well, it's the right way to go out, isn't it? Don't outstay your welcome, leave them wanting more and all
it was
of that.
part of the story.
Yeah.
And then you look back to the title of The Rise and Fall and you go, okay, that was the fall.
Yeah. Yeah. He'd almost kind of written that into the script from the word go because of the album. Absolutely, yeah. So, and of course, as you said, this is something that happened again and again and again in his career in later years.
Yeah.
Part of what made David tick as an artist was that he did a project and he threw his all into it, and then he wanted to do something completely different. Yeah. And if that meant a new band or a new direction or just some headspace, and it must have been, a little bit brutal for you guys, but there it was, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, to have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because most bands, artists, find to some degree a formula.
Yeah.
It's those kind of chords that create that kind of a sound, and it's always a little bit funky, and it's always full on. Do you know what I mean? There's a sound there.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I've fucking done that. Good, next. I want to do soul. So he would learn and soak up soul and chord changes, and I want to do dance things. I want to do techno. I want to have the balls to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The guts on your career to go, it might kill me off.
Yeah.
People might just go, why don't you do that, what you did before, you know? But he didn't. He just
kept on sticking to his guns and doing it.
I admire that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? And just the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah.
To be that interested.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I don't know if it was the next time you encountered David, but I know you met him again later on when he was delving into his sort of Berlin period. You met up again in France, didn't you? Around about the time he was recording Low? Is that right? Yeah. 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 And
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah?
He had a beard and long, scruffy, looked like a lumberjack. And he was sat there, and I was talking to Tony, and I think Iggy was there, and we were chatting. And then he said something, and the voice did it. And I just went, fucking hell. He was just sat there. I went, I didn't even recognize you. Check shirt on, baggy jeans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was good. We went into another studio, just me and him, and chatted through the whole Spiders thing.
Yeah.
And just went, look. And it was private, so I'm not going to go into it. But it was good. It was really good.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then we did, on the Holy Holy tour, we were actually playing a gig in New York on his birthday. And we got to the gig, and a lot of the security was saying, oh, we think David's coming down to sing with you. And we're like, we haven't heard anything about that. Well, he's only down the road. It doesn't mean he's coming, you know. So anyway, we got halfway through the gig, and Tony Visconti, who was playing bass, just said, shall I ring David? I said, yeah, give him a ring. So he rang him, and we kind of listened, and he answered, and he said, we're on stage, you know, playing, and we just rang you up to wish you happy birthday. And he went, oh, fantastic. He said, ask the audience what they think to Black Star, because that had just come out. And they went mental. And then we played Happy Birthday, like, you know, happy birthday to you, baby. And the audience all sang, and he went, oh, that was fantastic. Good luck with the tour. See you later. And it was a real high for us, you know, because he'd listened to a recording we'd done as Holy Holy, and Tony said he was smiling. He said, fuck, we would have sounded that good if we'd have, because it was doing Man Who Sold the World music.
Yeah.
We would have sounded that good. So I thought, and Tony said to him, will you put that in writing? And he went, no. So, and then 2 days later, we were in Toronto doing a gig. 5 o'clock in the morning, my phone was spinning just about, and everybody else's was. So we got up at 5 and said, and my son got through to me and said, just heard on the BBC, David's just passed away, you know. It was like, fucking hell. Do you know, it's weird, isn't it? You don't think of that happening.
Yeah.
And when it does, somehow he was above all that. Do you know what I mean? Which is a weird concept to have. He can't, how can he die? He can't die. It's David Bowie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly.
And
I was
like,
the same.
It wouldn't go in as a reality.
Yeah.
It was like, and we talked and we talked. We said, do we pull the tour? We had 12 more gigs to do, out of respect. And I said, well, look, you know, when we toured, he was ill, he was in pain, and he never pulled a gig. We never didn't do a gig. So the show must go on.
Yeah.
And so we went, that's what we have to do. So we carried on. And you thank you. And it was different. It was so hard to play.
Must have been.
You know, for the first few gigs, you're playing some of those songs are so emotional and so him. You know what I mean? And you're like, whoa, you got fucking hell.
Yeah. So we've sort of come at this backwards in a way. Holy, because after your time with David and other projects that you worked on, you started. I don't know. I guess was it Mick's memorial concert? Really, Mick Ronson, after he sadly died in the early '90s. There was a concert at Hammersmith where you got together again with Trevor and with various people from Def Leppard, Joe Elliott and some of his other band members. And out of that came a band that you called the Cybernauts. Is that right? So, and this was when you really began playing.
I saw that on the back of a truck when we were on tour. I don't know what the hell it was. It just went Cybernauts on the back of a big oil tanker. I'm like, that's a cool band name.
Excellent.
So then Joe said, what shall we call it? Cybernauts. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we toured Japan and we toured here. And they said, I think Mick's sister wanted Trevor and I to play. And Joe Elliott and Phil Collins wanted to play because they were big fans. But we'd not met them. And they said, yeah, we'll play at the memorial if we can play with Trevor and Woody. That was like, ooh, okay. They'd learn every note.
Yeah.
You know, we had a rehearsal and every note, they had it nailed. I was like, wow. So we didn't really rehearse. We just went through the set, you know. They just had it down.
Fantastic.
So, and then we did a bit of recording in Japan and a bit here, a bit in Ireland. And it was good. It was real fun.
Yeah, it's a great album. Do you guys know the Cybernauts album? It's fantastic. It's a really, really good. So, and then from that, I guess a few years later, that kind of morphed into Holy Holy, which was you and a few other people, and then Tony came on board as well.
Yeah, it was a guy from the ICA in London. It was basically an arts.
Yeah, this is Tom Wilcox.
Yeah.
The Institute for Contemporary Arts.
That's
good. And Tom Wilcox
that you knew that.
Worked there. Yeah, that's right.
And he said, would you come up and talk in front of 250 people or whatever? And I said, I've never done that. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I like it. I always have a drum kit in front of me. And then I went, well, why not give it a shot?
Yeah.
So I went up and did it. And I really had a ball. I felt really comfortable doing it. And they put a band together to do some festivals. And it had Steve Norman from Spandau, Bob Geldof's guitarist, Clem Burke from Blondie, the drummer. And they were doing Bowie numbers, all the Bowie numbers I'd done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So they said, why don't you come along to the festival and just guest on a couple of tracks? So I thought, oh, yeah, that'd be cool, you know. Went along, and I think I played Ziggy in 5 years. But I didn't realise I'd be stood at the side while fucking Clem Burke played all my parts. And I ended up going, oh, not that one, fucking. And I was like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hadn't played him for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
And it went down well. We got a lot more gigs offered. Blondie then had a tour, so Clem couldn't do it.
Right.
So they came to me and said, will you be the drummer in your own band? Well, that's a mind fuck. Do I have to audition? No. Good, yeah, all right then. So, and then I thought, I don't just want to do it from a tributey kind of viewpoint.
Yes.
I was trying to find another angle. And then I remembered we never played The Man Who Sold the World live.
Right.
And the four of us really wanted to get out there.
Yeah.
Because at that time it was, some of those tracks are dark and a bit twisted and we wanted to know what will it be like in front of an audience doing that. So I thought, well, I can't do it without Tony. But he probably isn't going to do it because he's so busy producing, but I'll try it. So I thought, all right, I'll give it an hour of chatting to him, and if I can get him, great. And I explained, look, I want to do it. And he went, wherever you play, Woody, I'll be there. I was like, what? So he got him in.
Fantastic.
And
then was it
good.
Tony who suggested Glenn Gregory from
Yes.
Heaven 17?
Yeah,
who
he just
sang-
done an album with Glenn and said he's got the perfect voice there to be able to pull it off.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, good.
That was a
bring him
good
in.
call, wasn't it? Glenn really
Yeah,
nails those things like Width of a Circle, difficult songs to sing.
Yeah,
And
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. And then, so that went really well, and you did a few festivals as well. You recorded the live album at London that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then you went on to do the Ziggy album.
Yeah, we did.
Live.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
I mean, the songs are so good.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to install the spirit that we had as a band with Ziggy and the Spiders. That there was a certain attitude and a certain approach to playing that we had as a band. Because when we first started doing gigs, it went down okay. You know, we played well. It went down all right, but it wasn't what we thought should happen. It wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we would chat after a gig, and after a few gigs, we got to this conclusion that we were all walking out there, and this is not a put down on audiences or anything, but we were going out there thinking, I hope they like it. I hope. Do you know what I mean? And then we went, you don't need a fucking license to play music. You don't need an okay from anybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You do what you think is good, and you put it over. If people like it, fantastic. If they get something out of it, even better. If they hate it, there's some more gigs down the road. Go and see somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we then went out as a band with that. And it's not I don't give a shit whether you like it or not, but it's close. But it's the same with anything in life, that attitude. You know, if you go, fuck, I can't pay the rent.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if you go, oh, shit, I can't, and then a job comes in, I've got to do it, No, you don't have to fucking do it. You just have to hold your position. You don't compromise just to pay the rent. It will be paid. I mean, sure. I won't go into it. Sorry, go on.
And I noticed something that you've been doing lately, because you were showing me some amazing stuff on your phone last night, is, we've all got through the last couple of crazy years in our own way, and something that you've been doing is something that David famously did, which is pick up a paintbrush, and you've done some amazing stuff.
Yeah, that came about two ways. I mean, it was my first love into the arts.
Yeah.
When I was at school, it was what I was good at that and sprinting. So I ran. Gone. I ran for England once, doing 100 meters, and came fucking second, which was the first time I was beaten. But never mind. and art. So I was looking at having that kind of a career. I'd entered a competition at 13, and I didn't even know what the prize was. And it said, paint something from an unusual angle. So I painted a whole landscape through the windscreen and side things of a car, driving a car. And it won. And the prize was a scholarship to an art college in London. And I can't remember which one it was. But my parents were like, no, at 13, you're not going to London. Then music came along and blew that out of the water. And I would only go back to painting maybe every 4 Christmases. I'd have 2 weeks off or whatever and do a bit and then put it all away again. But at the beginning of COVID, I couldn't play. I did get an electronic kit, which I kind of vowed I'd never play, but it helped me through COVID. I could go down to my cellar and play with headphones on. So, it kept me loose. And then my wife got ill, and I was 24/7 looking after her. And it was so doing my head in. Yeah. I could not get out of it. So I just took out the canvases and started painting. And that was the only thing that got me through that. And then I did about 5 and put them all in the bin because I thought, okay, And then a little bit of the next one, I went, ooh, ooh, that's good. Did I do that? Yeah, good. Finished that one. And then about a week later, I went, I've always been a painter. It was a really weird thing. Yeah. And I thought, well, I didn't really get taught at school to paint, but then I didn't get ever taught to play drums. I went for 1 lesson as a drummer, and it was disastrous, so I never went back, I learnt myself just by putting records on, and on my stereo system at home, on my record player, if I put my finger on it really gently like that, it somehow distorted the sound through the needle, and the drums would stand out a little bit louder so I could hear what drum he was hitting. Who is doing that? Who? And I spent hours learning albums like that. Yeah. So that's how I learned. So I learned really painting like that as well. And I've just been offered an exhibition in Brighton, so I'm working on that.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations on that, and I hope we'll see a lot more of your artwork, Woody, because it is. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have seen some, and it's really good. I'm not just saying it; it's really proper. It's proper good stuff. So look, Time's winged chariot has just about caught up with us. So I'd just like to ask you one more thing. Ziggy Stardust, the album, 50 years old yesterday on its release. So I don't know if it's impossible to remember really, but back then when you were recording it, those songs, Suffragette City, Starman, 5 Years, Moon Age Daydream, when they were going out, did you have any inkling that 50 years later you'd be, sitting somewhere talking about it to a load of people who love it so much and that it was going to become one of the essential albums in rock history?
Oh, no. No, I mean, you had a list of things in your head when you were recording, of like, you're playing for the song, you obviously don't want to find a drum beat that's embarrassing. You also don't want to do mistakes on there, because maybe in 5 years it'll be on the radio and you'll be, oh God. Do you know what I mean? I can hear that drum beat that goes out or something like that. And you want to be successful. All that's going on while you're learning a song and putting it together. So looking at 50 years was, do you know what I mean?
It's amazing.
I mean, we thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. Do you know what I mean? We thought we were good, right? Yeah. And we knew that. But even when you know that, it's not a guarantee. Do you know what I mean? It's not a guarantee that you'll be successful, because it's still your viewpoint. Yeah. It's just like, well, I think I'm amazing.
Well, I think so too. Well, I certainly think you're amazing, and everyone here thinks you're amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a huge, huge honour.
Thank you for coming.
To have
Thank you.
Woody Woodmansey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Woody. Fantastic.
Thank you. So I go that way.
That way.
Yes.
Thanks, Woody. I'll see you in a bit.